Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Peach State Payments, ethical processing, more profit, less stress. Chiro HD, more than an EHR, practice management simplified. The Chiro Speaking Company, attract, educate, and convert. Chiro Spring, cloud-based, user-friendly software with all the essential features chiropractors need. OmniWave, redefining comfort and acoustic wave technology. Chiro Health USA, Chiro Script AI, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, 5-Star Forge, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, and the IFCO. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 720 of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Christopher Kent. If you want to hear his journey from chiropractor to researcher to professor at Sherman, stay tuned for the full episode. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. Today I have Chris Kent on with me. Really, it's a good timing for us to get together and talk all things chiropractic. Chris, some things that you might not know, but you may know, chiropractor and attorney. He's over at Sherman College of Chiropractic. So I'm interested in his take on the college experience. Researcher, helps with the Foundation for Vertebral Subluxation, and has a show called On Purpose all the way back to when it was recorded on cassettes and radio. And really excited to talk to him today about patient rights and how RFK in his new position with the HHS involves chiropractic. But before we get into those topics, I will let you know why we do what we do over here at Chiro Hustle. Well, first things first is freedom of speech. We think it's vital to the existence of mankind, so we support that. We also believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. They're not the same things, but if you need guidance with that, go to your local chiropractor and ask to have some help and some guidance with your family's health with medical freedom and family health freedom. Those topics were a lot more wide ranged a couple years ago until we got a new administration in, I believe. We also philosophically support BJ Palmer's Sacred Trust. If you don't know what that is, go to our show notes, click on the link, and learn more about BJ Palmer's last written words. Also, this guy's into subluxation, so I know a lot of the colleges aren't as strong with vertebral subluxation. We do believe in vertebral subluxation over here. If you guys have a chiropractor in your life that might not have got philosophy or have kind of lost their way, please share the show with them. If they're a student, please share the show with them. As we are going to open up today with Dr. Chris, last thing I'll tell you is, philosophically speaking, we do believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence and the educated intelligence. We believe that when man or woman, the physical gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual, which creates the educated intelligence. And that's philosophy. And if you guys, like I said, don't have somebody that if you do have somebody in your life that isn't getting chiropractic philosophy, please share our show with them. And I just want to welcome Dr. Chris Kent, episode 720 to the Chiro Hustle Podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, James. Appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, so I know that there's a long story, I'm sure, about how you got into chiropractic, but maybe we can open up with that.
Well, I think it is kind of important because the reason I got into chiropractic was because I knew that my purpose in life was to facilitate the expression of human potential. That was the starting point. And it was kind of interesting because I was very methodical in the process of trying to select a career. And I was about 16 years old. I was experiencing a variety of health issues. And my then best friend suggested that I see a chiropractor. Now, I had been looking at medicine, didn't really like that, looked at osteopathy and naturopathy, a little intrigued by those, psychotherapy, body-mind stuff, nutrition. And while I saw good in all of those, none of them really resonated in my heart. So chiropractor, I said, gee, that's interesting. And I asked my friend, you think that might help? He said, oh, it's helped me a lot. So being 16 years old and not knowing about chiropractic, I did what 16-year-olds are wont to do, which was ask my mother. And I asked her, what's a chiropractor? And she almost reared back as if I had uttered a bad word or something. And she said, a chiropractor? Why, that's someone who cracks your bones. I said, wait a minute. She said, cracks your bones? And she said, yes, I've seen it done. You can hear them snap. And I said, why would any reasonable person submit to that? And she said, I don't know. I wouldn't go. So now I had a serious contradiction to resolve. My friend, who was seemingly rational and certainly ambulatory, was sharing the positive experience he had with his chiropractor, and my mother's talking about fractures. So I thought, is there a way I can find out more about this without risking life and limb? So I called a nearby chiropractor and said, I'm doing a paper on chiropractic for school. May I do an interview? He said, sure, come on over. So went over and said, okay, ask your questions. And his response is still one of the most concise and elegant I think I've heard in my 50 plus years of involvement with the profession. He said, chiropractic is based on 4 simple concepts. He said, the first is that the body is a self-healing mechanism. If you cut your finger, it heals. If you cut the finger of a corpse, it doesn't. It's life that heals. He said, second, the nervous system is the master system of the body. Every dimension of the human experience is processed through the nervous system. Every motion, every emotion, every thought, every action, everything you think, say, do, or feel is processed through the nervous system. Okay. And the third item gave me goosebumps then, and it still does now. He said, third, he said, if there's any interference with the function of the nerve system, not only can that compromise your physical well-being, but because it distorts your perception of the world and limits your ability to respond to the world, it can have significant psycho-emotional consequences too. And he said, fourth, what I do as a chiropractor is locate and correct vertebral subluxations which cause that interference. And I thought, wow, I'm in. And I became his patient. And it wasn't long before one day he said, I think you should consider becoming a chiropractor. And I said, well, what does that involve? And he said, well, you have to make a trip to the People's Republic of Davenport, Iowa. And I said, Davenport, Iowa, why? And he said, well, that's where it's done. And people say, oh, you didn't even consider Sherman? Didn't exist. You didn't consider Life? Didn't exist. Didn't consider Life West? Didn't exist. Didn't consider Parker? Didn't exist. I could go on and on. But yes, I'm really that old. So I remember vividly packing all my stuff into a box because this was June. He called the school and they said, we've got a term starting next month in July and we have an opening. And he said, why don't you go? I just said, okay. One of those things that just seemed naturally right, something that I was led to do. And I thought to myself, this is pretty good stuff. And if my function is to facilitate human empowerment, human potential, and if as a chiropractor, I can help a significant number of people do that, how can I do more? And I thought I can become involved in education and the process of making more chiropractors. And that caused me to join the faculty of Palmer College and After a number of years of that, I left. I practiced full-time for a while. Other things I did, I worked with Irene Gold in her board review courses, traveled all over the place, visited a lot of colleges. And what was happening at Palmer at that time was deeply disturbing, in that chiropractic was moving away from chiropractic and into medicine. And about that time, Reggie called me and said, I'm opening a new school. I have opened a new school in Pennsylvania, and I'm good at starting schools, but I'd really like to train people to take them over from me. He said, I'd like you to join us as our academic dean, with the likelihood that you will develop into the next president. I said, sounds good to me. So I did that. Following that, Reggie became somewhat disenchanted with chiropractic and started a new profession called spinology, which was focused on the notion that we introduce a force into the body responds, and vertebral subluxations, or as he called them, obtrusions, would be resolved. So I got involved in that. Reggie eventually returned to chiropractic. I was involved in all kinds of things, and perhaps one of the more significant ones was the development of the Insight Subluxation Station with my former business partner, Patrick Chintempo. And what we identified within chiropractic is what had been referred to as the silent dread. And the silent dread was the notion that many chiropractors understood chiropractic philosophy, they embraced it, they owned it in their heart, but they weren't quite certain that they were delivering the product that they were promising. So what we said was, how can we evaluate the function of the nerve system objectively using well-established technology that was validated in the scientific literature, and this was very important to us, that would work with any chiropractic technique. It wasn't technique specific. So we developed the Insight methodology, looking at things such as surface EMG, so that we could measure the amount of energy in the muscles, how strong they were contracting, what the patterns of distribution of the energy throughout the entire spinal system was. We looked at skin temperature differentials, looking at the nervous system's response to changes in the environment. We looked at heart rate variability, which was very exciting to us, because now we had a way of looking at the portion of the nervous system that controlled the organs, glands, and blood vessels, and seeing how effectively that was doing its job. And our original intent was to develop a technology to improve the practice of chiropractic, for the chiropractor to have a tool that could be used to see how a patient was responding to care, how it might be modified, how it might be improved. What we didn't anticipate was that it would be used as a communication tool, and that it was a very good way of building that bridge from the patient or practice member's initial clinical concern, symptom, condition, or whatever, and understanding what chiropractic really is, and how, when vertebral subluxations are corrected, some pretty amazing changes take place, not only in our lives, but even more exciting, the lives of others.
I'm going to go back a little bit with you.
Okay.
Where'd you grow up?
Where did I grow up? Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
So Davenport, Iowa wasn't too far off.
No, it wasn't. But what's kind of interesting was, I'm looking at whatever information I can find, and there's a school in Chicago, which is even closer. And I thought to myself, if I went there, I could come home on weekends. If I were really masochistic, I could even commute every day. Maybe I should look at that school. So I asked my chiropractor, and he developed the scowl on his face and just said, "You don't want to go there." Just like that. He said, "You want to go to Palmer?" I said, "Okay." Though I did visit National, I had to see the place. And the visit made it very clear that I made the right choice.
And at that point, how many chiropractic colleges were there? Were there just Palmer, Davenport, and National?
No, there was Palmer, National, Logan, the Clevelands, a number of smaller schools in California. But at that time, Palmer had more students than the others combined.
And when you were at school, was BJ still around?
No, I was there. I matriculated in 1970, and BJ had passed in 1961.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm just trying to build the storyline.
Yeah, the timeline. Because I like to say, and I know this is a bit intense for some people, but I pride myself with being among the last of the real chiropractors that were produced by Palmer before they went even farther into the medical paradigm.
Yeah, I grew up in Davenport, Iowa also.
Really?
Yeah, it's my hometown.
Oh, tell me more. I'm more interested in you now.
Well, I just knew that there was something special going on at that college.
Mm-hmm.
And I was born in 78.
Mm-hmm.
So for 30 years, I grew up in Davenport, Iowa. I did not become a chiropractor. I got my backgrounds in marketing and journalism from college.
Uh-huh.
I didn't get into chiropractic for 8 more years until I was 30 after I finished college.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize how important the profession was to, as you say, humanity.
Yes.
I didn't realize how powerful this profession was to the individual. And I didn't realize until after 16 years where I am today with you, how misunderstood the profession still is to our culture as a whole. So as I started to realize what was possible with chiropractic and that it was not allopathic and it was not a part of the big box medicine system, I started to realize that the college level was definitely becoming infiltrated with the medical paradigm. But growing up in Davenport, I just saw that there's this place where all these very fit, young, and healthy people were. And I went to Davenport Central.
Mm-hmm.
So as I was going to high school, I would see what was happening over at Palmer. And then when I was 16, like you, I went to go see Palmer College for injury I had playing high school football.
Mm-hmm.
My athletic trainer, his name is Steve Kanoki. He says, "You should probably go get your shoulder x-rayed." And my mom took me at the time to Palmer College. And at that point, they asked my mom at 16 if they could x-ray my shoulder, but also x-ray my spine to see if I had any vertebral subluxations. My mom was a nurse, and she said, "Okay, sure." So anyways, I started getting adjusted at 16, just similar to you. So growing up in Davenport, Iowa, I always knew that there was something very special about chiropractic.
Very good. No, that's fascinating. And
yeah,
I kind of, the most recent educational thing I did was completing an MBA. So here we go. You talked about getting into it from that end and then kind of getting into the clinical, and I've gone the other route.
Mm-hmm. And when did you decide that becoming an attorney was important for your career?
Actually, at the time, I was working at the UN. And at that time, I was chair of the NGO Health Committee. And it seemed that most of the NGO representatives were old people that were sent by their NGOs to New York to get rid of them. It seems kind of cynical, but that's the way it felt. And many of them were lawyers. Some were medical doctors. And I had the opportunity to enroll in an innovative hybrid law program that I was able to complete part-time. And I thought to myself, if chiropractic is going to be all that it can be, we have to be able to withstand the legal challenges that are undoubtedly going to be coming our way. And we have to have people who understand legislative drafting. After I finished law school, I completed a program in legislative drafting so that we have the ability to craft laws, not just in the United States, but internationally, so that we have the opportunity to bring chiropractic to the world. One thing that's really been bothering me lately, thinking about people, we have 334 something million people in the United States approximately. Well, we have 8 billion people in the rest of the world, most of them in unlicensed jurisdictions where no one has a clue what chiropractic is. I remember we were able to do a program, and that's what I would do in my role. I would try and kind of deflect things without having a frontal attack. Like they'd say, well, we have a program coming up on women's health. Why don't we get UNICEF to come in and talk about their vaccine programs? And I said, nah, we've done plenty of that. Why don't we do something different? How about a program on women and chiropractic? And they said, well, who could put that together? And I said, well, I could. I can get some experts in that area. Oh, okay. So we did. And I remember vividly when these remarkable women came and gave their presentation on chiropractic. There was one woman from a developing country who said, where can we get this? Are there any chiropractors in whatever the name of her country was? And I said, no, regretfully, we have none. And she started crying. So we have a job to do. And that job goes far beyond the borders of our own country.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Peach State Payments. Ethical processing, more profit, less stress. Chiro HD, more than an EHR. Practice management simplified. The Chiro Speaking Company. Attract, educate, and convert. Chiro Spring, cloud-based, user-friendly software with all the essential features chiropractors need. OmniWave, redefining comfort and acoustic wave technology. Chiro Health USA. ChiroScript AI. Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, 5-Star Forge, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, and the IFCO. Let's hustle. Yeah, I see that there's a huge need for people to have clarity on chiropractic, not just here stateside, but globally. But it does seem like the position here in America gives us the ability to be a trendsetter for a lot of the way that people start to create ideas around the medical profession globally.
Yeah, and it's very clear. And what we've been doing here at Sherman College, which is exciting to me, is communicate the possibility of there being chiropractic programs in developing countries where there's a tremendous need. Because useful as missions are, what the people we've been having discussions with have pointed out, they said, we want a sustained presence. We want to train people from our culture to become chiropractors so that they can deliver this service within the context of our culture and our community on a continuing basis. And I'm very excited about that possibility.
I think that that's a tremendous process, and I do believe that chiropractic philosophy can become global philosophy. And I had a chance to study with John DeMartini a couple weekends ago in Houston, Texas. And the chiropractic philosophy is so rich, um, and it's so valuable to so many people to start understanding, but we have to own it. And that's something that I've come to understand too is chiropractic philosophy is something that's very, very powerful, but chiropractic has to own it. Otherwise, people will take the parts of it that they want and they'll attribute it to whatever their agenda is and not ever footnote what chiropractic is within that new model that they create. So
And that's something I'm very passionate about, and that is use of the lexicon.
mm,
Making sure that we use chiropractic terminology, that we make it known that the location, analysis, and adjustment of vertebral subluxations is not synonymous with spinal manipulation. I see ads that say, learn spinal manipulation in 3 days. And these ads are sent to athletic trainers, physical therapists, other practitioners. And to suggest that they're the same is very problematic. And that's why, again, here at Sherman, we're very concerned about using the correct lexicon. I was lobbying, and I tell people, if you look at the events of November 6th and you see those underground tunnels with the little trams and such, I was there legitimately years ago, arguing for the inclusion of chiropractic care in the Veterans Administration, and with the ability for veterans to access chiropractic without a medical referral. And the lobbying firm that we were working with, they had a thing where for, I think it was $5,000, you could have a coffee, as they called it, with a Congress critter. If you were a high roller, for substantially more, you could have a meal with them. But the coffee was supposedly 5 minutes. I don't think we even got that. And no coffee was involved. He just came in the room and he said, okay, here I am. Nice to meet you. He said, go ahead. Looked at his watch. And he said, you're a chiropractor. I said, that's correct. And he said, and what do you want from me? I said, our concern is the ability of veterans who have served our country to get chiropractic care without having to go through a referral process. And he said, just wave me off. He said, we don't need chiropractors. He said, we have physical therapists, and physical therapists are qualified to provide spinal manipulation. And I said, but spinal manipulation is not the same thing as analysis and correction of vertebral subluxations. Correcting vertebral subluxations allows individuals to function at a higher level, regardless of what specific clinical entities they may have initially complained of. He looked at me and he said, he had paper, threw it at me. He said, your own researchers say they're the same thing. Thank you. Well, that was $5,000 wasted, but it taught me a lesson. And that lesson was what I had learned in law school. And that is the case that you are trying may sometimes turn on a word. Indeed, it may turn on a punctuation mark. In fact, in one of my talks, I have a picture and it says, let's eat, Grandma. And Then there's another picture and it says, "Let's eat, Grandma," without the comma. And it says, "Commas save lives." It shows, the dinner scene in one picture and, cannibalism in the other. And that sounds silly, but it's not at all. We must be precise in how we communicate our message so that people understand that this is about the totality of the human experience. It's not spinal manipulative therapy for musculoskeletal pain.
This might be one of the most foundational interviews I've ever done over 7.5 years because of the way that you share the story and share the message. Have you noticed that there are people that graduate from a chiropractic degree and it says chiropractic medicine on their diplomas?
Yes. And clearly that's an oxymoron.
You said lexicon matters.
Yes.
Why are they pushing that across the stage and putting that on the sheepskin?
Because they want to hijack the cultural authority of medicine rather than to express their identity and create their own cultural authority. And one of the challenges that we face, and again, it's hard not to be judgmental. It's hard not to be somewhat harsh with these people. But I say it's like a child who's raised in an abusive home. If that's all they know, if that's what they've been taught since day one, and if they don't know anything about chiropractic philosophy, if they don't know anything about vertebral subluxation, the scientific support for it, the ability to use reliable objective measurements for it, the biological plausibility, the distinguished track record of clinical results, if they don't know anything about that, we can't really blame them. And that's why I try, and it's difficult, to say we need to embrace these people. We need to be beacons of love and light. We need to be the individuals that bring them from the darkness into the light and guide them strongly but lovingly so that they can fully realize what it is they have and what its impact on the world can be.
Your inspiration courses through my veins the same way. And me not being a chiropractor, I protect what you protect. I believe what you believe. And I believe that the languaging and lexicon of chiropractic is very fundamental to the future of this profession. And that's why I open up the way that I do, because I think that they're taking a lot of the language out of the chiropractic colleges. And I'm so thankful that Sherman College is one of our primary sponsors of Chiro Hustle Podcast. And I'm so thankful that Life West is a primary sponsor of Chiro Hustle Podcast, because I do think there still are some higher education groups out there that are supporting chiropractic philosophy, and they're actually rearing the future chiropractor with the fundamentals to go out there and to not have an identity crisis. And I think that that's what you're saying, is they want to hijack the medical establishment within chiropractic. But what it's also doing is it's giving a false sense of identity to the future graduate to think that they actually practice medicine.
Yes.
And well, going back in time, the Wilkes case was won on quackery and disinformation, because they were trying to still medically monopolize chiropractic, and Chester Wilkes said, "Hell no, we won't go."
Yes.
And I think that that's a fundamental part of this conversation too. And I know that you've done a lot of good creating the foundation for vertebral subluxation, leveraging your position within chiropractic, telling the story, going forth and creating on purpose, which I don't even know if we'll have time to really get into those topics. Yeah. And how
the credit for the Foundation for Vertebral Subluxation really belongs to Dr. Matt McCoy, who's the prime mover. He's the worker bee. I'm the president, and of course I do what I can do to promote the foundation, and it's deep in my heart. But I'm one that I don't care who gets the credit. I just want it done, but I don't want people to think that, I'm doing things more than I am.
Well, when he wins, the profession wins,
Absolutely. We all win.
and
Well, the
humanity.
people win. The people
Like,
win.
yeah, culture wins at that point.
Yes. Yes.
And I mean, I just got back from Cuba, okay, and
Hmm.
I'm walking around today in my town that I live in, Grand Junction, and I'm a little perturbed because I'm thinking to myself, are we going into the golden age, or are we um, still going to deal with an uphill battle when it comes to chiropractic becoming acknowledged? And I have a sense to believe, because of the work that we're all doing as a collective party, that we're going into a positive direction, because I don't want to ever imagine anything but that. But how do you feel RFK, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is going to help support this message of chiropractic within mainstream culture?
Well, I don't know. I'm optimistic because
Same as me.
I love what he's saying.
Yes.
To show you how committed he was, and this wasn't easy for him to do on the kind of whirlwind tour that he had when he was running for president. He came to Sherman College and did his thing here for the people in the Spartanburg area. And he pulled no punches. He talked about how much he liked chiropractors, how they think out of the box, how they come up with new ideas, the depth of their commitment to those they care for, and the need to get out of this obsession with an outside in pharmacologic approach driving everything because of all the money that's involved. And again, empower individuals to express their potential. So let me tell you a couple, without going down other bunny holes, because it is an issue. Chiropractic, yeah, it's really good. I don't know if you're familiar with Jay Holder's work, but Jay Holder
I know,
is a
Jay.
chiropractor involved in addiction study.
Addictionology. Yep.
Addictionology,
Torque
correct.
release technique.
Yes. And he
When I when
worked,
I when I tell people
yeah.
about TRT and how it was actually
Hmm.
fundamentally like the foundation of it,
Hmm.
people don't. It's hard for them to grasp.
Yes. Well, the thing I wanted to bring up about that, and we could talk about technique maybe some other time, but as far as the availability of torque release technique and its value in addictionology, he was working with Janet Reno, who was then Attorney General, and was very concerned about addiction care. And when Jay showed her the randomized controlled trials that had been performed on individuals that were in residential addiction treatment in the hospital where he was the director, she was, shall we say, pretty impressed. And then the next question was, well, how many chiropractors are there? And at the time, he said, oh, 60, 70,000. She said, it's just not enough. And she said, and how many are trained in this work? And she just kind of rolled her eyes and said, I wish we could use it. I wish we had enough to get the job done.
Yeah, I've heard that before,
Mm-hmm.
but we have to start somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not being negative, but I'm saying if we go back to my original vision for what I wanted to do with my life and the notion that we have to make more chiropractors, we do. Because even if we can create a greater awareness of what we are, as I've said, Victor Hugo is credited with having said, there's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. And I like to respond by saying, well, I respectfully disagree. because the thing that's far more powerful than such an idea is a single individual who has the vision, the passion, the commitment, and the technical ability to deliver. That means we need a lot more chiropractors.
Amen. I think we'll close on that.
Okay.
It's a very good closing statement. Dr. Chris, if people want to connect with you or learn more about you, where can we send them to?
Okay. Our website is chiroonpurpose.com. Chiro, C-H-I-R-O, onpurpose.com. And you can also reach me by email at Sherman College. Please don't ask me if I can help you with your, parking tickets and such. But if you want me to help you connect with someone at the college that might be able to provide you with some useful help, my email address is very simple. It's just ckent@sherman.edu.
Well, Dr. Kent, Chris, as you said, I could call you. Thank you for spending some time with me on this episode of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. If you guys want to reach out to him, go check out the website, chiroonpurpose.com. And his email is ckent@sherman.edu. I want to thank you so much once again for sharing so openly and so much information that I think is going to enrich lives and give people the idea that chiropractic is a standalone profession. It needs nothing else in it, simply no interference. And if we can clear it, anything is possible. And I'll close out like I always do, telling everyone, you're just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye for now, Dr. Chris.
Thank you, James.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.